Ravi is a perfect example of a good boy. Working as a researcher at a university, he drinks no alcohol, is vegetarian, and loves cooking with his mother. Being the youngest child, he is the most mature and dependable. Ravi has no hobbies. He just loves his job too much. Rita is a free-spirited girl with strict moral values. A little incompatible of a pair, I know. Her hobbies include caring for her future in-laws and cooking for her boyfriend on a date. She has no objections as to what she should eat. For the right family, she will go full vegetarian, no problem. Oh, and of course, she doesn't even know what alcohol smells like. This information, however in-depth and exhaustive, cannot really be trusted. The simple reason for that is the following. It is taken from an Indian dating app where parents fill out their children's profiles to arrange marriages for them. And so, who knows what Ravi and Rita are really like? It is March 2020, and the two are on an arranged date with one another. And as with most arranged dates, it goes as perfectly as one could imagine. If a dirty place, a poor picnic, some terribly unfunny jokes, no connection, and a few successfully dry sentences are to be considered perfect, the date goes unimaginably well. To add to everything, both receive some extremely dramatic news at the end of it all. The COVID-19 pandemic has gotten so dangerous that the government has announced a complete closure. In the next scene, the duo enters Rita's house. Ravi leaves for a different town, and the only way for him to return home is by car rental, a car rental that will soon call him back. And so, before that happens, he has a lot of time to have a look around his future spouse's house. Funnily enough, it is a complete mess. With dirty dishes all over the place, there's even some alcohol lying around. Lies are being said to maintain the picture Rita's mother put forward on the internet, and being the good boy, Ravi seems to actually believe it. The car rental only calls when it's already evening. Ravi is eating with Rita, discussing his perfectly planned out life when he receives the information that the only available car will be free tomorrow morning. On top of that, there are no hotel rooms available in the area. Rita doesn't seem so excited about this, but she still does what's right. She offers him to crash on her couch tonight. It will definitely be extremely comfortable. It is at this point in the story that the movie shifts gears and delves into the realm of soul-breaking horror. After calling her mother to let her know about the sleepover, Ravi walks over to Rita's room to listen to her call, when he overhears something extremely unusual. The girl is talking to her dad in an unquestionably graphic manner. The night that comes after is understandably sleepless for the young man. He has been lured into the lair of a beast. The goodbye is distant and uncomfortable the next morning. Ravi shows no affection and no will for future contact as he walks out of the door. Naturally, Rita is a little confused by this. She was under the impression that everything went well last night, so once the boy was out of her house, she opened up her fridge and started drinking beer. It is when she tears a large tie off of a chicken leg, like a true Viking, and chugs down the beer that suddenly Ravi comes back inside through the main door. As it turns out, a car won't be available for the next 3 days. He has nowhere else to go but back here, and as horrible as it might sound for him, this news offers a good possibility for honesty. Now that the cat's out of the bag, and there is no point in trying to become Ravi's partner anymore, Rita can be fully honest with him. This means that she can tell him how she eats chicken and drinks, how she is unemployed, how she studies nowhere, and how she likes to curse and think of growing old alone. Oh, and of course, this is not her house. Her mother pays for it in exchange for Rita going on arranged dates and acting like a good girl. She also likes doing nothing, and as it happens, Ravi will have to learn how to be inactive as well. After cleaning the entire place to soothe his anxiety, he sits down and faces his biggest enemy, enforced idleness. In the next scene, the two talk about their plans for their personal lives. As expected, Rita doesn't want to get married at all, while Ravi just craves somebody to cuddle with. The dangers of an incorrect marriage are completely unacknowledged by him. He has been trying to find somebody for a long time now, but unfortunately, none of the arranged dates have worked so far. If you ask Rita, it is all because of the nature of those meetings. But the young man's insecurities make him think the opposite. This is why he asks Rita if she thinks he's boring, and this is why he starts proving the opposite without even listening to her answer. He has a lot of tricks in his bag to present himself as interesting, and with the use of them, he actually manages to make Rita laugh for the first time. A glimpse of a real connection is first seen between the duo, but unfortunately, this is exactly when Rita goes into her room to make an emergency call. By the look of it, she is talking with her boyfriend, but the smell of dysfunctional relationships fills the air in the room very quickly. As it seems, the man on the other side of the line is married. The call is quite uncomfortable for the girl. The man is saying that they should not meet each other for a while, and naturally, Rita wants to go out immediately after the conversation is over. Thanks to the global catastrophe that is raging at this moment, however, she will be able to go nowhere. Besides, Ravi has or thinks that he has asthma, so he needs somebody to be by his side. The frustration and annoyance are immeasurable. There is no wonder why she doesn't want to talk in the next scene. The two are sitting on the couch, looking for a good movie to watch, when, suddenly, Ravi starts talking about his favorite Bollywood movie. The idleness must have provoked an urge deep in his heart to talk endlessly about the image he has of true love. And as funny and unfortunate as it might sound, this image is from a Bollywood movie. It must be true, of course, there is no doubt about it. Tears come falling down his face, and his motor cortex gets so soaked in sorrow that he spills water all over his clothes. This is why later that evening, he was wearing all girls' attire. I don't know if it's the mellow evening or the fresh fashion, but it is clear that the young man is feeling extremely well. Smiling and waving back and forth, his mood is thriving. Feeling on top of the world, he is unusually satisfied with himself, with Rita, and with the unexpected turn his life has taken. And no, of course, the new fashion and the mellow evening have nothing to do with it. It is his Diet Coke. Rita soon confesses that she has mixed it with some whiskey. Ravi's distress is brief and unpowerful. He feels great, so why ruin it all? The drunk Ravi is a thing to watch. Genuinely funny and lovable, he makes Rita laugh many times and reveals his love for stand-up. Naturally, he has never tried it before, and of course, tonight he will break that tendency. The stage is arranged in a few seconds, and based on his previous jokes, Rita expects something magnificent. But unfortunately, instead of cracking jokes, Ravi unveils all of his fears and childhood in front of her. As if he were at a therapy session, he says that his parents were divorced and underlines the difficulty of going through such an enormous life, even in Indian culture, where one cannot talk about it. The divorced parents are good enough to bend anybody, but what troubles Ravi the most is the loneliness that comes after. The prospect of living in bleak loneliness, this is what keeps him awake at night. After this jaw-hurting laugh, both need some refreshment, of course. This is why they danced their minds away that night. Ravi's head was an exploded nuclear plant the next morning, and the only thing it imitates are radioactive complaints and distressing COVID-19 news. Soon, however, he gets back to his senses and immerses himself in his morning routine. The duo is working out together when suddenly Rita's mother calls. This is when Ravi first hears their conversation spoken out loud. As it turns out, the mother doesn't leave a chance to make sure her daughter understands one very important thing. With her real personality, she is not worth love and affection. Hearing all this, Ravi must be feeling a glimpse of compassion for the young girl. Perhaps this is why he offers her to cook together in the next scene. He understands that Rita neither wants nor knows how to cook, but Ravi is sure that it is going to be a fun activity. The food is terrible afterward, but one thing is true. Rita is in a much better mood. She doesn't know this yet, but very soon, her day is going to get even better. In the next scene, she is looking for a movie to watch when suddenly, she learns that Ravi has some plans. His mother has arranged an online date for him, and he has to make a video call. This is just perfect. Rita can sit around in the corner and watch as Ravi engages in a funnily artificial conversation with a complete stranger his mother has picked beforehand. She can text him some suggestions too. For a moment before the call begins, Rita immediately begins saying she can have fun. But unfortunately, her entire organization tells her otherwise, when she realizes that the date is going perfectly. Seeing Ravi engage in a wonderful, honest, and affectionate conversation with an immediate strong connection, Rita feels the urge to leave the room immediately. Ravi is on top of the world after the call. The girl is just perfect for him, and the rush of happiness through his brain is so strong and irresistible that he just has to distract himself and not lose it. Unfortunately, however, this happiness of his cannot be shared by Rita. She seems distant now. Standing in her room, Ravi finds out for the first time that the girl he's been living with is a painter. Naturally, he wants to see her work immediately, but as Rita says, he shouldn't really do that. She likes to paint disgusting, graphic images of bloody He won't like it. That night, Rita calls his boyfriend and receives nothing but scolding. According to their arrangement, she must text him before calling. Rudely, the man on the other side of the line hangs up and leaves the girl alone in the face of a sleepless night. Perhaps loneliness is not so endurable for Rita either. In the meantime, Ravi is having the night of his life, but it is not because of the dreams of his new girl at all. Fantasizing about Rita, clad in Indian traditional attire, he looks up at the dreamy mirage with eyes full of love and wonder. Perhaps the person to whom he is truly attracted is never going to wear traditional clothes? Rita was especially restless the next morning. Frustrated out of her mind, She calls her married boyfriend and tells him that she can no longer endure living like this. She is dressing up right now and going over to his house. She doesn't care about the pandemic or about the consequences of her actions. She just wants to get away. Annoyed by even the slightest obstacle on her way, she gives Ravi a reality check when he tries to stop her from going. He will never be able to find true love by going on arranged dates. There will be no clinking bells in his heart when he meets his magic fairy, because most of the time, when fairy tales don't come true, there is just deafening silence around one's ears and inside one's heart. Deep down, Ravi knows this is true. This is not the first time he has felt hopeless. After the silent and lonely day, he is already asleep when Rita comes back home. Finding him without a blanket, she throws it over his body. And so, the time for their second farewell comes very soon. The next morning, déjà vu hits both, as they stand facing each other before Ravi's departure. The young man has a great speech prepared, but Rita is too impatient to let him go through it at full length. It is when Ravi is in the middle of his gratitude sharing that Rita dashes forward and embraces him firmly. The connection is electric, and Ravi can hear and feel the girl's heart beating against his chest. This is the first time he has felt one with another. Rita apologizes for saying those things yesterday, and when the two break away, an invisible string between them suddenly becomes firmer. Pulling them together once more pushes the couple into a magical world of connection and love. But suddenly, just before they get so close that they can feel each other's breath, Rita does something extremely unexpected and dangerous. She coughs. We all lived through those times. We all know what it means. Ravi will be going nowhere. Measures, however, are taken immediately. From now on, Rita will continue living in her room and receive top-notch food from Chef Ravi. Unusually enough, the closed door between them enhances their connection. Perhaps this is why, when Ravi learns that his new girl passed on to him, he isn't too devastated. Knock-knock jokes come flying out of Ravi's system then. And they are so bad and so frequent that they are funny. Soon, they start talking about their past relationships, and bit by bit, the subject of their conversation becomes deeper and deeper, until they are discussing what the true nature of a loving relationship looks like. For Rita, love is a kick in the chest, while Ravi believes that a loving relationship is something that you fascinate and grow in. Gradually, they go deeper and deeper into this rabbit hole, until the downgoing spiral leads them to subjects they do not want to talk about. This is the subject of the ways they tackle loneliness. This is about Rita's current dysfunctional relationship with his boyfriend, and about Ravi's intense and unhelpful search for a partner to cuddle with. Both their struggles are unique, and their personalities are further connected when the deepest and most unwanted parts of each other are exploding. The closed door in between has no power to mitigate this exposure. The damage is done, and the deep, unquestionable connection is set in place. Perhaps this is why Ravi decides to tiptoe towards Rita's room that night and cuddle her in bed. No matter the warm embrace, however, Rita is still shaking the next morning. All sweaty and trembling, she has to go to a clinic. Fear of the unknown future and the possibility of a complication make Ravi extremely restless. It is already late that afternoon when he finally receives a call from Rita's doctor. He has to say that he's Rita's boyfriend in order to receive health information, but what he learns still soothes him a little bit. Rita is on oxygen, but she's stable, so it is all right. What is not all right, however, is the thing Ravi hears next. As it turns out, the doctor who is treating his girl has just graduated from college. This is his first rapid response, and he seems to be feeling a little unsure about himself. After calling Rita's room and asking her roommate to pass down a word from him, Ravi does something he has never done before. The anxiety must be hitting him really hard since we see some chicken in his hands. It is the best thing he has ever eaten. Naturally, his body is not accustomed to it, so the entire meal is vomited out pretty soon. Ravi is holding Rita's vibrator too close to his face in the following scene. It is always a great way to decompress before a video date with another person. As expected, Ravi just fails not to talk about Rita during the date. Very soon, the girl on the computer also understands that this young man isn't for her, so she starts giving him some advice as well. From her point of view, he should just tell her directly about his feelings. After the date, Rita's mother calls. The fact that after failing to reach her, a man's voice answers her daughter's phone is extremely unusual to her. But soon, she is told about everything that happened. After learning about her condition, the woman seems to be feeling guilty for the way she's been treating her daughter. Speaking of the daughter, Rita calls Ravi in the next scene. She has just witnessed a very difficult scene, so she needs somebody to talk to about it. As it turns out, her roommate has just passed away. It was the silence and cold that came after demise that made Rita crave hearing an affectionate voice. She just misses Ravi so much. They barely know each other. that much is true, but the days they have spent together have created such a strong, invisible tie between the couple that the growing physical distance is already starting to burn. Unexpectedly enough, the new doctor does a perfectly good job with Rita. As he tells Ravi in the next scene, the girl has been extremely emotional lately. He even sat with her to keep her company. As time goes on, Rita's mother's calls become more frequent, and Ravi becomes a good friend with the woman on the other side of the line. Soon they even get together in a video call and plan out a future meeting once this COVID-19 fiasco is over. The woman is just so grateful that this stranger boy is staying at her daughter's house. Who wouldn't be, right? The next call with Rita ends with fear and uncertainty. First, the girl tells him about the night she went out. As it turns out, she didn't even go to her boyfriend's place. She just roamed around the streets, sleeping in parks and licking her fingers after touching store counters. She wanted to get sick. She wanted to get away from the constant fear and loneliness. It is then, when she is making those last points, that her monologue is cut short abruptly. Rita loses her consciousness. As the doctor tells Ravi later that evening, Rita got into a state called delirium, and she is now sedated. Nobody can say with full certainty when she will wake up. That night, Ravi calls his mother and asks her to talk about her divorce. It is after this conversation is over that a new perspective on love presents itself in front of the young man. Love isn't something that is handed over to you on a silver platter. Love starts with making a choice. The next morning, after sleeping it off in Rita's bed, Ravi realizes that he still hasn't seen any of her paintings. And no, none of them depict any bloody. They are all about connections between two individuals, bright and colorful. They resonate with the affection and love that have been put into them. Later that day, Ravi receives the happiest call of his life. Rita is awake, and she is ready to go back home. As she says over the phone, she prefers to walk back home. She has something very important to tell him, and she wants to do it in the open air. For the first time in a week, Ravi walks outside and lets some fresh air into his lungs. They meet each other in an empty park. They reveal their faces out of their masks, and they hear the clinking of chirping bells in the distance. It just cannot be a coincidence.